We've got a lot to cover in the next 50 minutes, so fasten your seatbelts. That was a quick sail up from Auckland with 30 knots of wind up the chuff. The lads waited for the bad weather to go through, then headed north again on day 7.
There was always a dream to sail off over the horizon, a dream of adventure. Circumnavigate New Zealand, now wouldn't that be an adventure? We bought a boat, 41 foot, big, strong, go anywhere. All those years of poring over charts of way out remote places. The crew chose itself, that was the easy bit. Every one of them, sailors, hunter-gatherers, fishermen, adventurers, and so it all came together. I was just saying before that you could actually spend a week here and just have so much shelter in here. You could go out, you could go right up. What a special moment sailing into Hauhora Harbour. For a while it looked unlikely to happen, as it's not the best place to approach in a 30 knot easterly, but we had timed things perfectly and conditions couldn't have been better when we arrived off the harbour entrance at high tide with a nice offshore breeze. All those years dreaming of sailing into Hauhora, and here we were. What a magic moment. Probably had some uncles who would have gone in and out of here. There's a photo of my Uncle Arthur as part of a rescue team when a ship came unstuck out here, and they went out and I think they rescued all We anchored offshore, taking it all in, looking up at the house on the hill above the wharf where my father was born all those years ago. This is the old family home. I've always wanted to sail up here to the family home. It's 15 years since we were here, but this is the birthplace of my father. He spent the first 11 years of his life here. Quite an amazing spot.
That was pretty cool for Murray. The harbour was his dad's childhood playground.
G'day, it's Mike. I'll tell you a little story. Adam had married Debs only a few days before we left Auckland. Classic Adam. I heard him telling these random people on the Hauhora jetty that he was on his honeymoon. I could see them looking at the rest of us on the boat and wondering which one was his bride.
So the lads were preparing and setting off on the first of the long legs. Tidal drift from the south and lack of wind became the norm, so the engine got a workout for the next few days. That was a very pleasant night in Resolution Bay, and the lads had their first taste of blue cod, the first of many tastes. They headed towards Waikawa Bay and met this big fella.
The pilot was waving his arms, saying, "Stay to starboard," and Adam called out, "What side is that?"
Lucky he told us.
Paddy helped reprovision Evie, and Murray's son and family visited. Then they were on their way south again.
There's the boat. Look at the baby in between the two. Nudging each other up, protecting. Oh, the baby, have a look.
So we're arriving at Stewart Island, day 23. Word from Adam.
Hallelujah. Well, the boat and the crew had gone well. We were anchored in Glory Cove, Stewart Island, the doorstep to New Zealand's best wilderness, and Henry was flying Dave in the next day to join us. Pete, Adam and Mike had gone to bed, and I was just soaking up the beauty, me and my crap camera.
I could see the lads down there and was looking forward to adventure.
This is Dave. Dave's joining us today, and his boy Henry's going to take us up in this.
This is part of the adventure, isn't it?
This is nice for the crew, young men.
Oh no, it looks like the crew are having a pretty good time at this stage from what I've seen, but hopefully we can show you some sights of Stewart Island. We're going to do a lap right around the outside of it, so it should take us about an hour. and hopefully pick out some spots of where you guys are going to moor up for a few days. So,
Thank you, mate.
no problem.
Now back at sea level, the lads were ready to venture further.
What do you reckon, Skipper?
Love it. Love it.
He is loving it.
Love it.
This was a good ride. We had 9-tonner boat honking along at over 12 knots.
Port Pegasus in the southwestern corner of Stewart Island is a pretty special piece of wilderness. The lads found themselves mooching around this part of the world for 8 days. The first day or two was in the area around Disappointment Cove, but it was anything but a disappointment. After a few days, the lads needed to stretch their legs.
Came back down to sea level, but the adrenaline levels stayed right up there.
Come to Mari. Go Mariman. Mariman want to. Be a better outcome.
EV anchored in Broad Bay, waiting for a good weather window to start heading north again.
Gale warning in force. Westerly rising to 40 knots. Sea very rough at times. Southwest swell rising to 5 meters.
Okay, they were hearing the man. They needed to stick around Broad Bay for a day or two. Day 35 was looking good to go north.
Pusica, southwest, 20 knots.
G'day, Murray here. I was on midnight watch crossing Fovo and was fast asleep at 07:20 hours when Mike woke me to see the sunrise over Pusica. I've been checking the weather at Pusica for years, the windiest place in New Zealand. This was not to be missed.
Day 36 was pretty special. Evie had arrived in Fiordland.
I got hold of Mana Cruising Club's A Boatie's Guide to Fiordland well before departure day so that I could study it in advance. It contains a huge amount of information. It's a little dated now, but we found it accurate in 2016. The guide describes possible anchorages in detail and which winds they are safe in. Attaching your boat firmly and safely to land in Fiordland is not for the faint-hearted. Wind swirls and accelerates through the fjords, and the water is generally very deep. And if it's not deep, it gets very shallow, very hard, very quickly. Swinging on an anchor in Fiordland like you do in the Hauraki Gulf is not an option. You'd be on the rocks in no time. Carry a dinghy and lots of rope. The guide also has locations of freshwater hoses, making refilling your freshwater tanks much easier. And the guide has a lot of history. It makes great reading.
It's 5:30 p.m. 28 Tuesday the 20th.
Your other friend when cruising Fiordland is Mary Lesk, the voice behind Bluff Fisherman's Radio. She's a legend. Not many people get to see themselves on a big wall mural during their lifetime. This part of the world can be wild on the water, so when visiting boats go into the area, they are welcomed into the family, and Mary runs radio skids to keep track of where everyone is.
Forecast for sea areas, Milford, Houston.
Back at Kisby Bay, while Pete was taking a rest and Murray and Mike were playing silly buggers jumping off the boat, Adam and Dave went on a little 6-hour hike into history.
In the 1890s, gold was discovered in Preservation Inlet, so a thriving town sprung up. They called it Cromarty. It even had a pub. The area is oozing history, and Adam and I found a lot of old rusty relics from the gold mining and timber milling days. But the gold ran out quickly, the people disappeared, and nature claimed the area back. You'd hardly know it ever existed.
Our time in Chalky was pretty eventful. Some good stuff and some not so good. Firstly, the anchor winch died. That was bad. The strong men aboard had some work in front of them. Next, all these crayfish walked into camp. And to our amazement, they climbed into the bucket of boiling water. That was good for us, not so good for them. We enjoyed their company. Now there was a strong nor'wester forecast. That was bad. We moved to Poxy Bay, had the anchor out and 2 stern lines to the land. Now let me tell you what led to this craziness. The wind got savage, the stern lines got loaded up big time, and the rocks got closer, very close. Murray fired up the engine at 0400 hours. That's way more effective than yelling, "Could you come up and help, chaps?" We were out of there. And going round and round Northport through a minefield of craypot floats until it got late. To make matters worse, the sat-nav was still waking up, and it was very dark. Dawn broke and we had avoided all those craypot lines. We'd dodged a bullet.
Hello, I'm Bruce. I'm coming to dinner tonight.
Oh, can you smell that through the camera? I need to come clean on this crayfish business. This is where they really came from. And you know what's incredible? My nephew Matt was in the cabin, and neither of us knew it at the time.
The world-famous Fiordland sandflies had well and truly found EV by now and were enjoying the new supply of protein. Day 40 and the lads were heading to Dusky Sound.
This has a lot of history. This is
We're making it.
we are, and this is where Captain Cook tied the Resolution, and he spent something like 6 or 8 weeks here. Yeah, he was here a while.
They careered or something.
They went ashore. They built a camp. They built a blacksmith shop.
Oh.
And
they laid the ship over. And
they did all. Well, I think so.
250 years ago, the crew of the Resolution set up an observatory here. The crew of the Resolution had some sophisticated gear with them, and this became the most accurately mapped point in the world at the time.
It's moose country.
Yeah, pretty bloody mean, isn't it?
Yeah.
Steep, inhospitable.
Beautiful. Jean would love to be here.
Mm.
And if you went up that Herrick Creek and over the pass, you'd come out at Supper Cove where they were released.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's where I think his name is Ken Tustin. Oh, he need to be maybe corrected. But he was the guy who's doing the wild goose chase, and he wrote the book.
Well, wild moose chase. Moose?
Goose and moose? We'll go for goose and moose.
Yeah.
Wild goose chase.
The goose and the moose and the
that's where it was. And
the goose and the moose and
amazing, eh? And we're here, guys.
We're bloody here, man. Hey, leave my camera alone, you bastard.
Leaving magnificent Wet Jacket Arm, Evie crossed paths with the Golden Princess in the Acheron Passage.
I'm faster than you.
1700 hours on day 44 was memorable. It was very wet on the outside. But it became very dry on the inside.
Hey, let me go. My dancing wasn't that bad.
Over you go! That was a beauty, man! The cock went on. Yay! Chinese hook.
Day 50 marked our arrival at Deep Cove Wharf. Not a ho-hum arrival as it transpired. Adam and I were on the bow, ready to fend off and make fast. Evie was on approach, 20 metres from the jetty, when we heard an agitated yell from Murray. "I've got no throttle!" Then a louder version. "I've got no throttle and no reverse!" No reverse, no brakes. We threw ourselves into the job of fending off and slowing 9 tons of boat without a thought for our well-being and without even consulting our health and safety plan. In the ensuing fracas, no crew, boats nor jetties were hurt, damaged or disfigured. It was amazing. We had planned to have Adam go to Te Anau to get supplies and more alcohol sterilised water. We added a new throttle cable to his shopping list. So Adam had 2 nights in Te Anau waiting for a new cable from Auckland. We never did get the full story out of him about what he got up to. We used up a bit of luck that day. If the cable was going to break, I can think of a lot worse places for it to happen.
Unless you've got a helicopter, a strong boat or very strong legs, there's only 2 places in Fiordland that you can get to. Deep Cove in Doubtful Sound is one of them. So while Adam was off on a mission to get a new cable, the others tried to blend in with the tourist crowd.
Serious traffic issues. I think we need lights.
We need lights on the corner.
Traffic lights.
Yeah.
Wasn't quite hard.
So this is, what is it, David? Spiny one.
Spiny dogfish.
Spiny dogfish?
Spiny dogfish. I never thought I'd be eating this stuff in a place like this. Let's hope there's better things to come.
We're leaving Deep Cove. We have a throttle. Thanks, Adam, for dealing with the throttle.
We have throttle.
We have throttle. And we have rain, which is very unusual. That's Ellis Falls.
And we have bottle. That rides my throttle. I love you.
So we're at the head of Paul Arm. This is spectacular. Look at this. Look at this.
tin blue cod from Catherine Island.
Yeah. There you go. It's 7:35 and we've just escaped from Catherine Island.
Yeah, we're leaving the head of Southwest Arm in George Sound. What a beautiful spot.
I joined the crew of Ellan Vannin at Oban, Stewart Island, where we sailed to Port Pegasus fishing and gathering and exploring for 10 days. A place where fat, sweet mussels uncovered at low tide, oysters in knee-deep water, crayfish and kinners, I didn't know they grew that big, and blue cod to die for. Climbing Ball Cone, a solid granite outcrop, and the views over the Southern Ocean was breathtaking. My only 24-hour sail from the bottom of Stewart Island to Preservation Inlet was exhilarating. Gliding into the inlet as the sun was coming up was absolutely mind-blowing. We spent the next 3.5 weeks sailing in and out of most of the fields and coves of Fiordland. The history of the place, the remoteness, the sheer natural beauty and the wild ruggedness. We experienced all the elements that Fiordland West Coast had to offer. Arriving at Milford was the end of my adventure 5 weeks later, and stepped off Ellan Vannin and farewelled my mates Murray, Mike, Peter and Adam as they sailed away to complete their circumnavigation of New Zealand, an adventure I will never forget.
This is a good time to tell you about the blog and the tracker. A blog had been set up before departure day, and friends and family kept in touch with the adventure. Murray and the crew appreciated the support they received. During the time the EV had no cell phone coverage, Nikki had been updating the blog from information sent from the lads via their Iridium satellite link. The Iridium also had a tracker which mapped EV's progress, and it added a lot of interest. But it had a habit of going AWOL, much to the dismay of anyone watching at the time. EV would be anchored securely and the tracker would head inland in the dark of night. It produced an interesting track for a yacht in Fiordland.
Port Adventure to Port Pegasus was pretty epic. What's your recollection of that, Pete?
Absolutely stunning time, mainly because I set the speed record going down.
I think there's some dispute there.
Day 62, and we were on a mission to get home. Dave and Pete have summed it all up pretty well. I could add what a solid boat EV is, the incredible isolation in the southwest, or how blue cod sit so nicely in the tummy, or the frank discussions that Murray set up and worked so well for smoothing the passage for 5 guys on a 12.5 metre boat for so long. Or I could talk about the cool tech that was on board, including 8 separate navigation systems, radar, AIS, Iridium comms and all the other excellent stuff. Then there's also my birthday in Broad Bay, the new prop, the cool temporary table that we threw knives at, or the crew's ability to deal with challenges. But I won't talk about any of that, you'll have to wait for the sequel. It's been very satisfying putting this movie together. I've had the chance to relive every day of the adventure, which is 7 years ago now. Our kids and grandkids have been with me movie making, which makes it very special. My only regret is that Adam and Henry aren't with us to share it. We had good sayings on board EV. Henry Ford's quotes featured large. My favourite is, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. That is so true. My simple message to you is surround yourself with positive people. Henry Ford's people who think they can. We'll have some cool adventures.
The lads were on a mission to get home, but there was an issue with EV. There had been unnerving amounts of water appearing in the bilge. Where was this coming from? It was potentially serious. The lads lifted her at Waikawa to check her out. There was no obvious issues, so a boat builder was engaged to look her over. There was still nothing to explain the bilge water volumes. It was day 69, and EV was still in Waikawa Marina. Paddy again helped at the stopover, and there were some meaningful discussions, as you can imagine. It was a unanimous call to put EV back in the water and continue with the journey. They had a saying from the start, plan for the worst and expect the best. This raises the issue of risk. The adventure had come with its challenges, and there were more to come. The batteries were fried off the Bay of Plenty. A regulator had failed, which meant they'd been overcharged. Murray had brought along his generator, and this kept the instruments and navigation lights going, which were essential. But there had been other interesting challenges testing the team as well. It was Adam who eventually found the source of the bilge water. Engine cooling water joined the exhaust in a flexible duct, and the duct had torn. Leith had left some magic tape on board, so the leak was dealt to and there was relief all around. My congratulations to the lads for keeping it all together. You're nearly home. This is your narrator signing off and handing over to Murray.
Before we set off on this incredible journey, we were approached by a Taupo newspaper wanting to do a story. We told them we hadn't done anything yet. You will never be famous for what you are going to do. We told them we'd be in touch when we got back, when we had a story to tell. This movie is that story. What memories, what an achievement, and what a wonderful group of guys to share this adventure with. Mike, Dave, Pete and Adam, without you guys it would never have happened. Every one of you brought something unique, something special to what was the trip of a lifetime. There were times when we were really tested. It's times like this you learn a lot about yourself. Mike talks of the sayings we had on board. Mine was, keep your fears to yourself, but share your courage with others. I guess my lasting memories would have to be the 6 weeks we spent exploring Stewart Island and Fiordland, arriving at Pickersgill Harbour, Dusky Sound, and being surrounded by the history of the area, going back to Captain Cook in 1773. The total isolation of Wet Jacket Arm, absolutely stunning. Vancouver Inlet at the head of Breaksea Sound was like stepping back to another time, unbelievable. And the last leg around East Cape into home territory, the beautiful sail from East Cape across the Bay of Plenty with all the drama that unfolded, around Cape Colville, across the Hauraki Gulf and past Rangitoto to end our journey. Evie then slipped quietly into her berth at Bayswater Marina and tied up. 74 days and 3,017 nautical miles since leaving. She was home. There were so many wonderful memories, so much laughter. How do you squeeze 74 action-packed days into a 50-minute movie? I have lived my dream. Thanks, guys. Auckland Maritime Radio, this is Ellan Vannin, over.
Good evening, go ahead, over.
Yeah, good evening, Maritime Radio. This is Ellan Vannin. We're closing our trip report. We have just completed our circumnavigation of New Zealand, and we just want to report that we're safely tied up at Bayswater Marina and have completed our trip, and thank you for your coverage the whole way round. Over.
Ellan Vannin, this is Auckland Maritime Radio. Well done, and that's good news. Have a good evening, and we'll talk to you next time. This is Auckland Maritime Radio, returning listening, Channel 16.
Thank you, Maritime Radio. This is Ellan Vannin out.
When the summer day is over, it's busy